It's easy to hate on the final season of Game of Thrones, but many of the most egregious decisions were partially defensible. Even though 7 years of Jaime's character arc were eradicated in one episode, you can make a case he would always end up with Cersei. And even though Dany went from saying,
"Men will live without fear and cruelty under their rightful queen,"
to nuking an entire city in the next episode, you could say the groundwork had been laid for the Mad Queen. And even though nearly all the Dothraki died in the battle at Winterfell, you could say they came back for the finale just for the sake of war and spectacle. But then they dropped this bizarre, show-stopping, perplexing Great Council scene in which Bran the Broken was unanimously elected King of Westeros. First of all, was this the first fade to black in Game of Thrones history? Game of Thrones never used to allow indiscriminate amounts of time to pass because the journey was the story. The complexities and intrigue of major political maneuvers was the juiciest part of the show. In this case, enough time has passed for ash to clear and beards to grow, and we find a pissed off Grey Worm bringing an imprisoned Tyrion before a bizarro High Council, many of whom we've never seen before. Remember, in George Martin's Game of Thrones, we not only know each of these characters, but their family histories and personal motivations for being there. Sansa wants Jon released, Grey Worm wants to kill him, Tyrion elects Bran to be king because he's got the most stories. Everyone agrees.
And everybody's okay with this? Did I miss something?
This is Grey Worm, who was just in the street executing every enemy of the Queen when Jon Snow walks out of the throne room confessing to murdering that Queen. How is he even still alive? Grey Worm has not been in a negotiating mood and said he's in charge.
This is our city now.
And 1 minute later,
Make your choice then.
that was a Zoolander quick turnaround.
That is not true.
Yes, it is, Derek.
Okay.
And then later,
You cannot.
Yes, I can.
so Grey Worm shows up wanting to execute prisoners he should have executed weeks ago, and ends up not only letting said prisoner choose the new king, but become the new hand. And Jon Snow's punishment? Move to Canada? And he accepts these terms and goes home? And Tyrion's speech about this magical boy who knows history somehow wins everyone over? Tyrion asks, who has a better story than Bran the Broken? Literally everyone there. And everyone there has ambition and personal motive. The show is called Game of Thrones, yet they all bend the knee to this unproven boy whose major contribution to the wartime effort has been his bait? Do they even know Bran has powers? And if he can really see everything, did he see Daenerys nuking a city so he could become king? By the way, you know who has the best story? Jon, Aegon Targaryen, literally the Song of Ice and Fire, who Sansa called
someone better.
And he's not brought up at all? I'm assuming one of the reasons this Grand Council got together is because a few of Varys' letters, which proclaimed Jon as the rightful heir, made their way across the kingdom. But no one brings this up? And then Bran makes a spiel about how the throne won't be passed through family lines but on merit. Then immediately gives Sansa independence while ignoring the pitch Yara had made just a few minutes earlier. And why is Dorne going along with all this? They've resisted a foreign ruler their entire history. The only way this scene gets pushed through is via a whole lot of acceptance, and acceptance is not the way of the world in a Game of Thrones. Bran hasn't earned the throne on merit, definitely not on charisma, and his nickname isn't exactly inspiring either.
And he can't father children.
Then he promises to lead the kingdom to the best of his abilities, then he's like, I'm gonna go look for dragons, but not before complaining about not having a Master of Whispers. You know who'd make a great Master of Whispers? You, Bran, you literally see everything. The show leaves on a number of questions. How did Sam become Grand Maester when all he did at medical school was steal books? What was the point of Bran flying around as a bird during the Battle of Winterfell? What's the point of the Night's Watch, and is Jon leaving it to live with the Free Folk? And what was the point of the White Horse? In the end, we're left with a show that feels like it was abruptly cancelled by the network, but given one final episode to clumsily wrap up storylines. However, in this case, it was Benioff and Weiss who decided to finish the show this abruptly, despite HBO offering them unlimited time and money. They set the finish line and tripped at it. Guys, I just reached 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate being part of a community with so many fun and knowledgeable fans.